Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro. In this follow along, I'm going to show you how to provision a Kubernetes cluster on Microsoft Azure or Azure. I like to say Azure, it's more fun to say. Their service is called AKS or Kubernetes Service, Azure Kubernetes Service. And you might have to enable this somewhere in there. That's not what I'm going to show you there. It looks like they got some free training, which is kind of cool. But I just know the way that I know how to do it. So what we'll do is type in Kubernetes at the top. We're going to go to Kubernetes Service. Notice that they have something called Azure Arc. Remember how we talked about Anthos? Well, Azure Arc is like Azure's multi-cloud service where you can manage nodes on other providers and on-premise in one place. So kind of a competing service, but works a bit different. And so what we'll do is create a new cluster. And from here, we will have our subscription and we'll create a new resource group because it'll make it really easy to clean this up afterwards. So we'll just say K8's example, so we know what to do there. Everything's gonna be put in there. And the nice thing is they have some options. So we are doing this for dev test, so we want this to be nice and cheap. I'm gonna say AKS example here. Hopefully it lets me name it that way. Yes, it's fine. The region's fine. I don't care about availability zones. The version is fine. The one thing about like different providers is that they might have different versions available and some might be more progressive than others. I would imagine that Google is the best at keeping that up to date. And the only difference between like some of these tiers is like the availability. So we want less availability because we just don't care because for dev and test. Down below, notice it's giving us standard B4s, 16 gigabytes. That's quite a bit. That is insane, but that's what they're recommending. I'm not going to leave that up for long. I guess we could change it. I'm going to leave it alone. I just don't want it to break, okay? So, because I ran it on this, but to be honest, it's kind of expensive. I'm going to go with one node because I don't want a bunch of them because I don't know how expensive this thing is. And at 16 gigabytes of memory, that could be kind of expensive. Maybe look up the cost of this standard price. Usually they show you in the menu, eh? So if we go here to pricing, oh, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. But, you know, it's, yeah, sometimes they'll tell you right here. If you open this up, they'll tell you the cost, $155 a month. Again, we're not running this for long. So, you know, I guess we could try. I just don't want it to break. We'll go with B2s, okay? I just don't know if that's what's going to be on for the cluster, right? But I would imagine that's all the nodes. For production workloads, at least 3 nodes are recommended, but we only want 1. So we'll say next. And it's going to run the system on a B2. Yeah, that should be fine. Everything will be fine. I just don't know if it's using like Windows servers underneath, because if it's using Windows servers, those always need a lot of memory. Okay, so enable virtual nodes. Nope, we don't need that. Enable scale sets, sure, we can have that left on. We have authentication, it's going to have system assigned managed identity. That's just how it integrates with Azure. Role-based access controls, we'll have it enabled. Could we do Azure Active Directory? Sure, but I'm not going to turn that on. We have the option between KubeNet and Azure CNI. If you choose that, you have a lot more options, but we're going to stick with CNI. And we can't use Azure option unless we're using Azure CNI. Notice we can use Calico, but we're not doing any network policies, so it does not matter here today. We probably want routing, but we're not going to do it that way. We don't care about container registry right now. We don't care about Azure policies. We don't need to worry about encrypting the secret store. That's kind of similar to KMS, so Azure Key Vault would be the way to secure your secrets in a more secure way. And we'll go ahead and review and create. And so this will take a bit of time. It takes longer than Google Cloud, but way faster than AWS, okay? So we'll go ahead and create this. And we'll wait a while, and I will see you back here in a bit. I'm just waiting for the next screen to make sure that it is working correctly. There we go. And so we'll wait till this is done, okay? So see you then. All right, so we are back. Didn't have to wait super long. I don't know if it tells us the time here, but again, not super long to wait, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not sure. But down below, it says connect to cluster, and that's the first thing we want to do. So let's click that, and we get a bunch of instructions. So that's kind of nice. And so here it says open Cloud Shell and run these 2 commands. So if we press this here, it actually runs the first 2 for us, which is nice. And from the Google Cloud one, you remember we had a shell. So Azure has a shell. It's not as nice, okay? It does have a code editor, but like, and I don't know if we showed the Google Cloud Run code editor. I'll probably show it now because I'm actually jumping between all of them right now, even though for you it doesn't seem that way. But it has a code editor, and it is a terrible code editor. Just awful. And it's weird because like Microsoft makes Visual Studio Code, and you think that they would do a much better job here for it. But notice that it ran these two commands here. So it ran them for us. So we're in there. And so now all we have to do is kind of run the stuff kind of here. But looking through here, this stuff isn't very particularly useful. So I'm just trying to think here. What did I do? I'm going to go look at my instructions. Because I think they had a sample app, and that's what I ended up using is their the app that they provide there. Yeah, so I looked up, I think what I did is I looked up Ingress because it was getting pretty confusing how to do it. Because when I went over to Microsoft here, and by the way, let's just test Kubectl to see if it's working. Sorry for the small font. I don't know if there's much I can do about that. Not really. Font size, large. Ugh. Get pods. So we'll say get pods here. All right, and we'll do -A. And we'll just expand this so we can at least see what's going on here. Okay, and so a lot less is running here than what we see for Google Cloud. We see Core DNS, CSI Azure Disk. So that's how the disk is being persisted with persistent volumes, Mesh server, tunnel front. Okay, so what we'll do is minimize this for a second. Is it still here? Is this it? What'd you do, Azure? Azure's interface is so janky. But oh yeah, we just can click it again. We can reopen it. I just wanted to make sure we could find it. So here is our Kubernetes cluster. So like they're very good about showing us the latest stuff. So we go there, you can see it and click into it. And it's similar to Google Cloud. So we can see namespaces. We can add namespaces. We actually see a little bit more information. So we see workloads. These are all the system ones. And I don't remember in Google Cloud them really showing us those. At least they filter them out. So we have deployments, pods, replica sets, stateful sets, daemons, JSON, cron jobs, and you can add stuff, but it's not as nice. So you go add with YAML, right? It's not like a nice big old interface, though there is like with quick start applications, but these are like applications. So you would choose deploy an application, voter sample application. Yeah, so that's the sample app that you can deploy. So like we could deploy that, but I'd rather just kind of go through the steps ourselves so we actually learn something and not just press a bunch of buttons and have it do it for us. But notice like service ingress, it's not going to be as nice as a Google Cloud, just period. Then we got our node pools and stuff down below here, but you can integrate like GitOps into it. So it's whatever like GitHub Actions or whatever Azure uses. But what I want to do here is bring back up our terminal here, and we are going to look up Ingress Kubernetes Azure or AKS. Now, the one thing about Microsoft is sometimes their services are clunky, like they're either really good or they're just like there's nothing there, but they're always really good about being able to copy, paste, and get things done via the terminal. So I know the first thing we need to do is do a basic configuration. So we need to have an Ingress controller. And so this one's going to be the Nginx Ingress controller that we're going to use. So we're going to copy the contents of this, and we're going to go back over to here. We're going to go ahead and just paste that on in. And it's going to use Helm. It's going to install the Ingress controller. Like AWS has their own, but for whatever reason, Kubernetes is using Nginx. But you can configure whatever you want. So they have a more customized, complicated one, which we're not going to do. But once our Ingress controller is created, we are going to then build out these demos. So go back over here and it is running. Okay, great. So now the next thing is we need to get these two files because this is the app they have. I guess we don't need both. Because when I ran it, I just did both because they said to do both. We'll do both because they might have routes for both and I don't feel like copy and pasting them out. So what we'll do is we'll need to create two files. We'll have to do touch app app1 YAML, and we'll say touch app2 YAML. And then here we'll type in code app1 YAML to open up in the editor here. And I have the code here from prior. So what I'll do here, I'm just going to remove my old ones so that you can go through the pain that I went through getting these going here. Okay, and so just type clear here. We refresh that, they're gone, good. This file's not actually here, just pretend that it's not here. So I'll do touch app1 YAML, and we'll say code app1 YAML here. Okay, it's empty, right? So then we'll go over here, we will copy the contents, paste it on in. Did I get it? Yep, okay. Right click, paste. Where's paste? Control V. I can't right click paste, but I can go Control V. Whatever. And we'll go to the top right corner, save. Code app2 YAML. Okay. Down here, copy. Control V. This is what I'm talking about. Their editor is terrible. Makes no sense. And then we'll say code routes.yaml because we need to set up, is it Ingress? Yeah, it's Ingress. And they have pretty complex routing for us. So we'll copy that and we will Control V and save it. And so now we have our 3. Now I want to get this code editor out of the way if it'll let me. I guess this is the best I can do. And we'll need to run these. Now, here's the thing. They say to run these like this, but I'll show you what happens. Makes no sense what happens here. So I'm just going to paste that on in. Notice I have to right click paste there and I can't Control V there. It just makes no sense. So if I do app1, it goes, cannot find the file. And I don't know why, because if you go ls, it's right there. So what I did is when we were doing our service mesh, we learned that there was a way to pipe the contents of a file there. And so I tried that and that works. So instead of doing that, we do cat app1 YAML. I'm just going to show you that dumps the content there, but we can make a pipe and then say kubectl apply -f. And so the contents will be this hyphen here. Don't ask me how it works. I just know how it works. Ingress basic, because this is the namespace that this stuff is all being provisioned to, if you noticed. I didn't point that out, but well, the controller is in there anyway. So if we hit enter here, that'll be 1. I hit up, I hit Control A, and I move over to 2, and that's 2, and then we do our routes. Can't always trust written tutorials. You have to learn. Okay, and so now we have all that stuff set up. So now what I want to do is just see our ingress here. So kubectl get. Actually, we can do all for fun. Get all hyphen all. We learned that in our namespaces tutorial. And do hyphen n ingress basic. And just see what we have here. No, oh, maybe we don't need the hyphen all. That's probably for deleting. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here we can see a bunch of stuff. We have our pods, our services, our deployments, our replica sets, but it's not showing us ingress, and that's actually what we want to see. So we'll go ing. And I think it's working. Usually what I'm looking for is if it has an address, because if it has an address, then ingress is working, right? If there is no address there, then we have a problem. And I know because I spent so much time doing this the wrong way and being like, where's the darn address? So if you got this wrong, just shut everything down, start over, because it's super hard to debug. But if we copy this, we should be able to go up here and just like paste it on in. And there it is, okay? Another way we could see this is if we we're here and we go to our workloads, and nope, sorry, ingress. And you go over here and we can see the IP address there. So normally when you set up something, it's going to have a load balancer, but for whatever reason, it doesn't with this one, doesn't set up a load balancer. So I don't know why. So, but that's fine. Like there is a load balancer, but I just mean like a managed load balancer. Like if we used whatever there's a called application gateway. The load balancers in Kubernetes, or sorry, Azure are a little bit funny names. Like there's one called, like they call them gateways a lot, like application gateway and stuff like that. They don't call them load balancers, but it doesn't set up one. But we're all done here. We accomplished our goal. So in order to shut this down, what I'm going to do is go look up resources because it's all a resource group. So it should be easy for us to shut down. We go to resource groups, and I called this one K8s example. So we click into that, and there's our cluster, and we're going to go ahead and delete the resource group. And then we say K8s example, go ahead, we hit delete, and that's it. And just make sure that it deletes. Azure's a bit buggy, okay? You really don't want this running and causing you money, but I'm shutting mine down. Just make sure to refresh, double check. Azure is notorious for like being delayed in terms of updating. So just come back after 30 minutes, an hour, and just make sure that resource group is gone. Hit the refresh, triple check, just be sure, okay? But that's it. We finished our Kubernetes cluster for Azure. Hurrah!